Join Kids Hut family.
Tia, you recite so many stories to me that are full of morals, but you have never recited your favorite story to me. Which one is it?
Tofu, that's true. I haven't yet recited my favorite story to you. Would you want to listen to one of my favorite stories?
Yeah.
Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, there lived a widow with her only son, named Jack. Their times were really hard, and they were living in poverty for long. Jack was too young to work and earn money. All their house furniture and other belongings were sold off to carry on with their basic daily needs. Until at last they were left with a cow, who used to give milk every day, and that they used to sell off in the market to buy bread. One day, the poor old cow didn't give any milk. That's when Jack suggested his mother,
I think we should sell off this cow and get a good return in bargain.
So Jack left to sell off the cow in the market. On the way, he met a butcher.
Oh, where are you going, Jack?
I'm going to the market to sell off this cow for a good bargain.
Oh, why take the trouble to go that far? I have a very good deal for you.
He took out 5 strange-looking beans from his pocket and handed them to Jack. Jack looked little hazed as to what kind of good bargain it is.
Oh my God! They are so beautiful. What do you call these?
Beans, magical beans. If you plant them overnight, by the next morning, they will grow up and reach the sky.
Wow! Mother would be so happy to see them. Thank you, Mr. Butcher.
And off went Jack happily to his mother and showed her the magical beans. But to his disappointment, she only got angry at him and shouted,
Off you go to bed right away.
She threw the beans outside the kitchen window and into the backyard and went off to her bed, crying and weeping. The next morning, when Jack woke up, he saw outside his window, and to his surprise, he saw a great beanstalk reaching up to the sky.
Oh my God! This beanstalk is so huge! I need to climb this up to see where it leads to.
He climbed up and up and up till his home looked a mere spot on the ground. At last, the stalk ended and Jack found himself in a completely different place. But suddenly, a beautiful lady appeared and said,
Hello, Jack. You don't know me, but I know you and everything about you. The castle you see there belongs to a giant who stole all your father's money and killed him. Your mother had kept this secret from you to protect you. He owes you, Jack.
The lady disappeared in thin air. Jack kept standing there and thinking,
He surely owes me and my family.
Far away, where the road ended, he could see a huge castle. He went up to the castle and knocked on the huge door. A giant woman opened the door. She looked scary and howled at Jack. What do you want?
If you please, ma'am, would you kindly give me some breakfast? I haven't eaten anything since yesterday.
The giant woman, though looked cruel and ugly, had a kind heart and offered Jack a huge plate of English breakfast, but warned him,
You must finish quickly before my giant husband comes back and eats you.
Then suddenly there was a huge knock on the door, and the wife picked up Jack and hid him in a huge empty kettle. As the door opened, the giant entered and roared,
Fee, fee, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Nonsense! You're mistaken. It's the ox hide you smell.
So he sat down at the table and ate the ox that his wife had served him as breakfast. After he finished, he asked his wife,
Get me my money bags.
He started counting his money, but he was so sleepy that he slept on the table. The whole room was roaring with his snore. Jack, taking an opportunity of this time, got out of the kettle, picked up the money bags and ran towards the door. Before the giant woke up, he climbed down the beanstalk and to his cottage and did not look back even once. He took a sigh of relief and ran to his mother.
Mother, look what I got. We are rich now.
The mother and the son lived quite comfortably. Till one afternoon, when his mother was away, he decided to go up to the giant's castle and see what was happening there. So he climbed up the beanstalk and reached the castle. There, standing at the door, he saw the giant's wife again. But she didn't recognize him because he was dressed impeccably this time.
If you please, ma'am,
He said,
will you give me some breakfast?
Run away, you little boy. Last time a boy came, he stole my husband's money bags.
But since she was kind-hearted, she offered Jack breakfast. At that very moment, the giant knocked on the door and quickly she hid Jack in the oven. The giant entered and roared,
Fee, fee, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread.
But the giant's wife once again assured him that he is mistaken and offered him his huge breakfast to eat. After eating his food, he asked his wife,
Get me my golden hen.
The wife got the hen and the giant roared in his voice,
Lay!
That very moment, the hen laid a golden egg, and Jack was left amazed with what he saw. No sooner he saw the giant slipping into his deep sleep, and once again he came out of the oven, picked up the hen, and ran for the door. In the meanwhile, the hen began to cackle. The voice made the giant move a little, but he kept sleeping. Jack climbed down the stalk and went straight to his mother and gave her the golden hen. The mother and the boy were so rich that they had money greater than even what they could spend. One day, he was sitting idle. The thought of the beanstalk crossed his mind again, and he decided to climb it. No sooner he was at the castle, but this time he decided not to be seen and climbed the kitchen wall of the castle and hid himself in the oven. In came the giant, roaring louder than ever.
Fee, fee, fo, fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread.
But the giantess was quite sure that she had seen no little boy that morning, and after grumbling a great deal, the giant sat down for breakfast. As soon as he got over with his breakfast, he called out to his wife,
Bring me my harp! Sing!
ordered the giant. Soon the harp started singing the most beautiful sounds ever heard, and no sooner the giant fell off into his deep sleep. Jack, who was waiting for this moment, got out of the oven and climbed the table to grab the harp. But as soon as he started running off with it, the harp started shouting,
Master! Master!
The giant woke up just in time to catch the sight of Jack running out of the kitchen door. With a fearful roar, he saw Jack running with the harp and dashed after him. Little Jack ran as fast as he could, while holding the harp tightly in his hands. The giant, taking terribly long strides, gained on Jack, and he would have been caught if Giant had not slipped over a boulder. Before he could pick himself up, Jack began to climb down the beanstalk, and when the giant arrived at the edge, he was nearly halfway to the cottage. The giant began to climb down too, but as soon as Jack saw him coming, he called out,
Mother, bring an axe!
The widow hurried out with the chopper. Jack had no sooner reached the ground than he cut the beanstalk right in two. Down came the giant with a terrible crash, and that, you may be sure, was the end of him. But the mother had a very important advice for Jack.
Jack, what the giant did to your father was bad, but you should not have been so greedy. He reaped what he sowed, but greed is also a bad deed.
Jack agreed to his mother and promised to never be greedy again, and they lived happily ever after.
Wow, Tia, that was such an adventurous story.
Yeah, Tofu, and do you know why it was my favorite story?
No, tell me.
The story was about a brave boy who wanted to fight against poverty, and in a way, he got a chance to take revenge of his father too. But in the process, he forgot that harming the giant again and again was not ethical, and stealing from the giant's house was also against his morals.
Oh, that's quite a heavy thought for my little brain.
Ha ha ha! Let's go. We are late for dinner. Mom must be waiting.
Tia, aren't you going to your friend's party?
No, Tofu. Mommy has asked me to stay home with you tonight because she and Papa will be returning home late.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Tia. Because of me, you can't go to your party.
It's okay, Tofu. Sometimes we have to sacrifice things for the ones we love. Just like the Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. Is it a story? Tell me, Tia, please.
The Little Mermaid. Once upon a time, there was a sea kingdom at the bottom of the sea. The king of the seas had 6 beautiful daughters who were mermaids. They were all very beautiful, but the youngest of them was the prettiest of them all. She had a gentle face, big round eyes, and a voice sweeter than anyone else's in the world. When the little mermaid turned 15 years old, her grandmother called her to her room. "Come, my darling. Today you have turned 15. And from now onwards, you can go to the world above. Just remember, the people above are very different from us. They do not have a beautiful fish tail like us. Instead, they have 2 legs."
Thank you, Grandmother. I have waited for this day for so long. When I return, I will tell you about everything I see above.
That night, the little mermaid went to the surface of the water. The sight of the stars and the cool breeze that touched her face took her breath away. She was just getting used to the feeling when she saw a big ship cross in front of her. Aboard it were many men, and they were celebrating the birthday of the young prince who had just turned 16. The little mermaid was mesmerized with the handsome looks of the prince. She couldn't take her eyes off him as the ship sailed past her. She was so lost in him that she did not notice the storm build up in the sky and the sea begin to rage. The ship had only sailed a little further when the storm shook it up. The sailors tried to stir it to safety, but many men, including the prince, fell into the sea. The little mermaid rushed to him and saved him from drowning. She took him ashore.
Don't worry, you are safe. Open your eyes.
But the prince lay unconscious. The mermaid decided to get help. When she couldn't get any, she came back to where the prince was. She saw him surrounded by many people. A beautiful princess was kneeling by him as others worked to awaken him. The prince opened his eyes, and the little mermaid was relieved that her prince will be saved now.
You saved my life. Thank you.
The prince knew nothing about the little mermaid. He didn't even know that it was she who had actually saved his life. This broke the mermaid's heart. She went back to her father's home. She told her sisters and grandmother what had happened.
Forget him, child. Humans and we are very different. To be with him forever, you will have to get him to love you more than anything else he loves in the world, even more than his own parents. How will that ever happen? Think about it.
But the little mermaid could not forget the handsome prince. Every night she visited the spot where she had laid him after saving his life. One day, she decided to visit the witch in her father's kingdom. Maybe she knew a way that the mermaid could be with the prince.
Yes, there is a way. I can send you to the land above the sea. You will lose your fishtail and have legs. If by the second sunset you can get the prince to love you more than he loves his parents, then you can be with him forever. Otherwise, you will die and become foam in the sea. But in return, you must give me your voice.
But without my voice, how will I make the prince fall in love with me?
You still have your pretty face and eyes. You will also be the most beautiful dancer anyone has ever seen. Now go.
In a flash, the mermaid found herself on the land. Her fishtail turned into human legs. It caused her pain, but she could not even scream because the witch had taken her voice away. Somehow, the mermaid made her way to the prince's castle. There was a big celebration going on there, but the guards would not let the mermaid enter because they didn't know who she was, and she couldn't answer them when they asked her about it. So she was not allowed to enter. Somewhere in the castle, music started playing. Remembering what the witch had said about dancing, Little Mermaid started dancing.
Oh, I have never seen anyone dance so beautifully. Maybe she has come to dance for the royal family in the celebrations. Oh, she is a dancer. Let me take her to the court.
Once the mermaid reached the royal court, she saw that the celebration was for the wedding of the prince. Little Mermaid was heartbroken. She thought the only way of meeting the prince now would be to dance and draw his attention towards her. And so she performed a beautiful dance for the royal family. When the prince saw her, he came up to her.
Hello, young lady. I have seen you in my dreams. Who are you?"
In his heart, the prince hoped that she would be the one who had saved him from drowning. He longed to hear the voice that had saved him when he was dying. But no sound came out when the little mermaid tried to reply.
"Forgive me. I think I am confused between you and someone else. But please do join us."
The prince led her to the ship on which the wedding was going to take place. Many people spoke to her, but she could not answer anyone. The princess was especially kind to her and took special care of her. "I know you saved the prince that day." "Thank you. Because of you, I have found the love of my life. Please always stay with us." The little mermaid saw that the princess and the prince loved each other and were very happy together. She decided not to pursue the prince anymore. He belonged to another woman. Although her heart ached to let him go, she happily attended the wedding and all the celebrations that went on throughout the next day. Soon it was evening. The second sunset was about to happen. The little mermaid knew she would die and become foam on the sea. As she stood there, looking at the prince and his princess, she heard some voices behind her. She turned around to see. Her sisters were there in the water. But all of them had very short hair now, instead of the long flowing locks they used to have earlier.
Sisters, what are you doing here?
"We have come to save you. We went to the witch. In exchange of our hair, she gave us this knife. If you stab the prince through his heart before sunset, you can be saved." Handing the knife to the youngest sister, all the other sisters vanished under the water once again. The little mermaid stood there holding the knife to her heart. She looked at the newlyweds once again. She knew what she had to do. At the sunset, she tossed the knife into the sea.
Goodbye, my love.
And so, for the happiness of her beloved prince, the little mermaid sacrificed her own life and joined the sea as foam.
Tia, this is such a beautiful story. It shows how much the little mermaid loved the prince. Thank you for not going to the party and staying with me.
That's because I love you, my little brother.
I love you too, my darling sister Tia. You know, my friend John stays with his cousins. Yesterday, he came late to the class and the teacher scolded him a lot. John said his cousin brothers made him finish their course before they let him leave for school. He said They always trouble him and make him do a lot of housework.
Oh no, he must feel really bad.
John is a very nice boy. He doesn't disobey anyone. He's very nice to his cousin brothers despite the way they treat him.
That is very nice of him. We should always forgive people for their mistakes. Have you heard the story of Cinderella? Once upon a time, there lived a young girl called Cinderella. Cinderella's mother had died, and so her father had married another woman who had 2 daughters. One day, Cinderella's father went to work and never returned. Cinderella was left at the mercy of her stepmother and 2 stepsisters who made her do all the work of the house.
Cinderella, it's morning already. Where is our breakfast?
Just a moment, stepmother. I am just bringing it out.
As soon as Cinderella had laid the breakfast, the stepmother and stepsisters started eating it. Cinderella served her own plate too and was about to eat when her stepsister pushed her own plate away.
Yuck! I hate it. Yes, now that you mention it, it really is horrible. Mother, do something. Cinderella, are you trying to kill us? What kind of food is this?
But stepmother, I have made it the way I always make it.
How dare you argue with me? Go and make new breakfast for us. Don't you dare do anything else till we have had our breakfast.
And this is what went on in their house every day. The stepmother and stepsisters troubled Cinderella without any reason. But Cinderella loved them still and never ever complained. One day, an announcement was made in the village.
Let everybody know. There will be a royal ball at the palace tomorrow night, and the king's son, Prince Charming, will marry a maiden from amongst the guests. Everybody from the village is invited.
The whole village was excited. Even Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters couldn't stop talking about it in the house. And that is how Cinderella found out about the ball.
The royal ball! Prince Charming! The whole village is invited. I will finish my work quickly so we can all go together. Won't it be just wonderful?
You! Who said anything about you going? You will stay here and polish our shoes till you can see your face in them.
And so, with a heavy heart, Cinderella saw her stepmother and stepsisters dress up and leave for the royal ball the next day. Once they had left, she cried bitterly. Suddenly, her room lit up, and Cinderella saw the most beautiful fairy she could imagine. She held in her hand a delicate wand.
Who are you?
Get up, child. I am your fairy godmother. I am here to get you to the royal ball.
Really? I never knew I had a fairy godmother. But how will I get to the ball? I don't have anything to wear.
You don't worry about that, my child. And so, in just a few minutes, Cinderella was ready for the royal ball. As she thanked her fairy godmother and got aboard the chariot, she received a word of caution from the fairy godmother. Remember to be back home at 12, otherwise the spell will wear off. Soon Cinderella arrived at the palace. As she entered the great ballroom, everyone turned to look who this beautiful maiden was. Nobody could recognize her. Not even her own stepmother and stepsisters. Prince Charming walked to her.
May I have this dance with you?
Yes, Your Highness.
And so Cinderella and Prince Charming danced together throughout the evening. Till Cinderella heard the clock strike. Fairy godmother's words came back to her. She needed to get out of there before the clock struck 12. Without saying a word, she tore away from the prince's grasp and ran out of the palace. The prince ran after her. "Wait, wait! What is wrong? Why are you running? I don't even know your name." But Cinderella dared not wait or even look back. Her beautiful gown was already turning into rags again. Her hair was coming loose from the perfect bun that the fairy godmother had made for her. She didn't even stop when one of the glass slippers came off her foot and fell in the palace driveway. She ran out of the palace gates and vanished into the darkness on a path that led to her home. Once home, she went back to polishing the shoes that had been given to her and decided never to speak to anyone about the ball. A few days later, 2 men from the palace showed up at their door.
The lady that Prince Charming fell in love with left behind her glass slipper at the royal ball. The prince believes that such a beautiful slipper could fit only his beloved. And so we're asking all the girls in the village to try the slipper. The one whom it fits would be the one the prince will marry. If you have any girls in the house, please ask them to try the slipper.
"Oh, yes. I am sure it was one of my daughters. The slipper would fit one of them." And so both the stepsisters tried to fit their foot into the slipper one by one. They pushed and pushed, but couldn't get their foot in. Looks like it wasn't your daughter's after all. Is there any other young lady in the house? No, there isn't. You can leave. As the king's men made ready to leave, suddenly the door of the house was thrown open. And Prince Charming himself stood there.
Who is this beautiful girl in the upstairs window? Madam, you have lied to us. I demand that the girl be called forth and try the slipper.
Yes, but she is only a servant girl. Nevertheless, Cinderella, come down here at once.
Yes, stepmother.
The moment Prince Charming saw Cinderella, he knew he had found his beloved. He took the slipper from the king's man and slipped it onto her foot himself. The slipper fit perfectly in a moment. Cinderella was once again transformed into the beautiful maiden from the night of the ball. Prince Charming took her to the palace with him.
He ordered that the stepmother and stepsisters be punished for lying to the king's men and treating Cinderella so badly and rudely.
But being the kind-hearted person that she was, Cinderella asked for them to be forgiven. The prince fell in love with her even more for her generosity, and they lived happily ever after.
Wow, Tia, how wonderful is it to forgive people. Thank you for telling me this story.
I will tell it to John too. I'm sure he will like it. Okay, shall we go home now? I think it's getting late.
For your favorite rhymes, stories, and more, join Kids Hut family. Subscribe here.